The inevitable return to reality.
Yes.
Where did you go in Florida?
My parents have a place for a long time now down in Sarasota, so we kind of did like the proper March break week in Sarasota and enjoyed the beach and did all the fun stuff with Nana and Pop, and then we played hooky for 3 days. So we drove up to Orlando on Monday and did Universal Studios and the Wizarding World of Harry Potter on Tuesday, which was like, you don't need to be a fan. They see like it's pretty, like the amount of detail that they put into that is really amazing. Like it's magical, kind of literally. It's just the way that they've engineered it and done it. It's like it's pretty cool. I didn't have to be a 9-year-old to like my daughter to enjoy it. It was pretty cool.
That's pretty sweet. Last year, my girlfriend and I went down and we were in my aunt and uncle have a place in Northport. So we were in Sarasota quite a bit actually, and that was my first time actually experiencing it. It's super nice down there.
Siesta Key Beach is pretty sweet spot.
Yeah. I got a bachelor party this weekend. I'm leaving tomorrow morning. I'm going to Jamaica.
Yeah, man.
So there might be a little bit of delay before this interview goes online, so I'll be in touch about that. Do you have anything for me? If not, I'll start recording. We can jump right into it.
Just hit record and we'll figure it out.
Sounds like a plan.
Recording in progress.
Scott Howard, welcome back to the Halvening Report podcast. Thanks for doing this tonight.
I appreciate you having me back. It must mean I wasn't totally off the rails on our first go around. So hopefully we do reasonably well on our second attempt.
Well, quite the contrary. Actually, a lot of good things came out after our podcast. There, you were episode 49. My 50th episode was Peter McCormick, so you must have did something there. And then I got connected. You hooked me up with the Blockchain Futures Conference folks, which actually just interviewed Tracy the other day. So that will actually go online before this episode. So yeah, a lot of good things have happened since you were on, and I think that was in May of 2021. So I think it's been almost 2 years since you've been on here. So yeah, thanks for doing this.
We were pretty close to the halving.
Yeah, we were.
It's just after, I think.
Very close. Yeah. And now we're coming up on what, about a year till the next halving, right? So time definitely flies when you get that low time preference, right?
It does make a difference. I even as my kids roll their eyes, they're just turned 7, about to turn 9. They're reasonably well educated, I hope, in Bitcoin. At least can when pressed or you catch them by surprise, they can throw out some good stats on it. But we're walking through. We were talking about before we hit record here. I just did a vacation down to Orlando, went to Universal Studios, and we're walking through the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, and the detail. And there's not a lot of things that you see that are built to last. And they clearly built this thing going like, okay, the depreciation cycle on this thing's like 25 years. We got to build it right to turn this thing into a cash cow. And even the stuff that's like the facade, that's not built like Renaissance art, the kind of Cephadine and the guys kind of point to the long time preference and what that does. But of course, I use that as an opportunity to go like, see, they don't build them like they used to, because we don't build money like we used to. And of course, my kids were just rolling their eyes at me, and but hopefully something stuck in their brains about it.
Yeah, definitely. It's super important to educate them young on anything money related, right? Whether it's even the old system's important to learn, but Bitcoin's certainly the most important in my opinion. I actually just had on some folks that are into Bitcoin education for kids. I don't know if you've heard of them, but Scott and Mallory Sibley, they have the Shamory. So this right here is a card game.
Cool.
Tailored to children. They have some children's books too. So I don't know if that's something you'd be interested in checking out, but they're doing some interesting things. Scott, just to I'm going to give you a quick little bit of a background there. You're from Halifax?
Grew up in Halifax, yes.
Halifax, but you spent a lot of time in the States playing hockey. You have a education background in history and political science, and then you kind of left your career and went into blockchain entrepreneurship, and right around the time of Bitcoin was created. Does that kind of sum things up, or what would you add to that?
Yeah, it was a little bit in there. So I started paying attention to Bitcoin 2013, 2014. Ended up at Decentral in 2014 when Anthony Diorio and the rest of the crew, he'd set up the space right down the street from my office here in Toronto. Friend was hanging out there every day, got me to come around the corner and come check it out. And of course, you learn by doing in this space. It was no, you got to buy a Bitcoin, and of course, Bitcoin was like $240, $250. I was like, okay, here's $250. Educate me on business development. Tell me what the heck this thing is, and show me. And paper walleted the whole thing and managed not to lose it. And so I'll hold on to that one till post my grave. But so kind of first, real exposure 2014. Wasn't smart enough to get myself into the Ethereum ICO. Mostly just say, well, I got to wire money to Japan to get more Bitcoin. Get some good news there is I didn't follow through on sending money to Mt. Gox. But kind of followed it for fun, kind of 2014, and then jumped in kind of whole hog summer of 2017. Started building applications, helped build out a kind of blockchain focused dev shop for a couple of years, kind of 2017 forward. So that's kind of when I really kind of started making my living as an entrepreneur in the space, was about 2017. So the last bull run, I guess 2 bull runs ago, 2 halvings ago.
Right. Now, so because we're kind of going through a very dark bear market. We bounced back in the past week and a half or so, but what's happening in the blockchain utilization area? Are companies still looking for that, or are they just kind of struggling to stay above water at this point?
So I think there's been a big evolution kind of in this cycle. So we'll kind of use the last halving, so kind of our last conversation as a stepping off point for how it's evolved. I think there's NFTs did a lot to bring kind of corporate America into what is this stuff, how does it work, how do we use it? Because I think NFTs are an on-ramp for more consumers, the kind of the gamer, the culturally elite, meme-orientated person. Like, there's only so many people who are interested in running the altcoin casino trading games. People want more of a story. They want more activity. And I think NFTs drew that in, and the brands kind of identified that there's an opportunity there. A lot of that opportunity fizzled out, looked like, smelled like, acted like an ICO, a little less clear, a little cleaner on the security side of how all that stuff works, which allowed brands to kind of, they followed it kind of from 2017, 18 forward, 2020, 21, these NFTs show up and they're like, okay, that's the experiment we can run. So there's a good amount of activity around that. So I think that onboarded some corporations, we can point to Starbucks and Reddit and stuff like that as reasonably successful examples of that. And a lot of consumers are into it, have MetaMask wallets and are doing activity on chain because the memes and the NFT stories and culture attracts them more so than the money technology or kind of political technology that we can kind of look at. Bitcoin is a political technology, and then everything else is mostly just financial technology dressed up in different ways. That there's only so many money nerds in the world.
Definitely. What's your take on these banks going down right now and kind of the bounce back of Bitcoin at the same time? Are these two correlated? What are your thoughts around what's happening right now?
Not smart enough to tell you whether they're correlated or not. There's certainly a solid thesis there that I suspect some economist nerds can go peel the onion back and prove or disprove and go have fun arguments about that. I am of the belief that the banking collapses, we'll use Silicon Valley as the example, but that going down is a catalyst for a lot more people to understand the value of Bitcoin specifically. Start to see the underlying rot that is the traditional financial infrastructure of the world, but we'll just use North America as kind of the framework, and how corrupt might be an aggressive word, but it's damn close to being in that realm. And when the tide goes out, we see who's wearing their pants, and it's very clear that a bunch of some of those the banks that have gone down were politically exposed more so than technically exposed, and so that kind of points right back to the power of Bitcoin as a political technology as much as it is a monetary technology, because all politics are about money.
What are your thoughts on the development of ordinals on Bitcoin?
So I've listened to a couple podcasts to kind of get a point of view and a little bit of an understanding. I think it's interesting. I'm pro free market, open technology. If you can make it work without a fork, you made it work. And so people who want to whine about it can go pound sand, as far as I'm concerned, because nothing changed about the code base. They just exploited how the code base is written. To create an interesting application that has, a bunch of people are going to experiment, try and figure out what the use cases are and how that can generate more value or not. If it doesn't, people will abandon it. That's fine. Kind of my point of view from a user adoption, like it's wicked hard. You got to be a real nerd to figure out how to get just running your own node is like a reasonably achievable thing, but you got to be pretty far down the path. Like I got a node running in an office I haven't been to in a year, so I don't even know if it's still up and running. So the kind of path to adoption and like how do you use an ordinal or get to an ordinal is like that's so far. It's not even mainstream crypto, much less mainstream. You got to be hardcore to have done anything with it. Even two of us who've like probably done the same thing. Like, I've listened to a couple podcasts and I've asked a couple people who are smarter than me about it some questions, and I'm like, sounds cool, and I'm smart enough to know that that's going to be a day for me to figure out how to even touch one, and I don't know if it's the best use of my day when I can. If I want to flip a JPEG, I'll go to OpenSea and flip a JPEG.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. There's no infrastructure for us to go buy and sell ordinals, and like I'm not even into NFTs on the Ethereum network, so like I'm not gonna go and dive deep down that rabbit hole and buy an ordinal off some Telegram user or something like that at this point. So like
I think it's super cool for like the early adopters and like the real nerds amongst us going down and digging in, trying to figure out what kind of different things can we do with it. Flipping JPEGs is not the thing that's gonna validate the value of it. It'll be something else. It'll be time stamping. There's a bunch of different things where it's like, well, why would I want to put that on the Bitcoin? But I want to put it on the Bitcoin blockchain so it's like incensorable forever. I want to timestamp something or mark something. It's there'll be some interesting stuff that comes out of it. It's going to be a cool experiment, and then that'll expose, we should build more and more infrastructure so normies can touch it.
I saw in the business and finance section on Twitter, Pulse Chain was trending. Do you know anything about Hex, Pulse Chain, and what are your thoughts on, if you have any, on Richard Hart?
Zero clue about any of it.
Zero clue? Okay.
And I won't even do like a myopic max me kind of like, nope, that one hasn't hit my radar. I see most of the things similar to you probably on Twitter of like, okay, is that a thing? I've gotten, even during the bull run, I got pretty narrow in terms of trying to figure out what I was going to figure out, why I was going to figure it out, and keep track of stuff. And I'm into Ethereum. I've done a bunch of layer 2 stuff and messed around with like Arbitrum and Optimism and ZK rollups and all that kind of stuff because that was the technology to play with. But now I've kind of, I think there's a level of that phase of the market is, that's what we did, that's how the last catalyst of money was used. We'll see what the next catalyst of money does next. More layer ones and more layer twos. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'll be late to any of those trains.
What are your thoughts on Canadian regulation around Bitcoin and crypto and the blockchain space? I know we spoke about it for a bit on the last podcast. You weren't happy. A lot of the entrepreneurs in this space leave the country or spend a lot of time out of the country. What developments have you seen in Canada since, good or bad?
More of the same is kind of where I'd land on that. There's a disproportionate burden on a small number of companies to educate entities with, public sector entities, whatever alphabet soup we want to pick on inside of, provinces and federal governments and agencies attached to. So the 3IQs and WonderFis and those crews got to spend a disproportionate amount of time, energy, and money on giving those agencies free educations that are usually only used to the detriment of the industry. From terms like the regulators clearly have an agenda that's not friendly, not innovation forward. Whole bunch of perverse incentives from those agencies to prevent innovation. Even though best way to rob a bank is to own one, is a old saying that our friends to our south are demonstrating to be very, very true. And if you think Canadians are gentler versions of that, you are deeply, deeply confused about how this country works.
Is there anything statistically about Bitcoin that has popped to you since maybe the last time we spoke, or of recent? I know we're challenging new all-time hash rates, and Bitcoin wallets. Is there anything that possibly stood out to you that in the last little while?
I think the hash rate continuing to expand, even through a pretty deep dip here. Obviously it's fluctuated through the kind of last 6-12 months when the price was in a kind of hitting. Let's assume we're in the winter based on timeline relative to the halvening. It's we probably joked about it last time. It's like, it'll be a really good year and a half, 2 years post halving here, and then we'll have whether we'll have 6 months or 18 months of real gnarliness, of which we're sitting in the middle of, and then we'll get to the next halving and then we'll start to catalyze again. So we're in the relatively predictable timeline. I was shocked but not shocked about how many miners struggled to understand the basic timeline of Bitcoin economics. There was nothing that was going to change about how that worked. They took on more leverage, all that kind of stuff. So a big part of the knockout of both the traders as well as the miners that impacted that was all this leverage getting blown out when if you're collateralizing a $50,000 marked Bitcoin to in a $16,000 marked market, your creditor is going to come calling. So a bunch of that, how fast the hash rate bounced back, I think faster than I would have bet, stronger than I would have bet. Some of that's just the machine cycle timed out, where the machines got more efficient in that timeline, and then lots of it was just the backlog of onboarding the Chinese exit of miners, getting those machines landed into North America or wherever else they were going to go. A lot, they Pakistan, everywhere else that they went in Central Asia as well as North America, but a lot of it came online in North America, which is good. But that took time. I don't think those of us who kind of look underneath the hood of the mining market kind of, it's going to take way longer than anybody thinks it's going to take. So I think the market, in terms of price action, all that kind of stuff, was probably ahead of where that was going to be. But now that I think that everybody in Texas and everywhere else similar has gotten all the inventory that they were going to get, and it's on, it's plugged in, so to speak.
So for those who don't know, Scott has connected the Halvening Report with the Blockchain Futures Conference, and we're going to be there again next year, this year in August. You're coming too, right, Scott?
This year, my vacation, my annual pilgrimage to Atlantic, Canada, is timed out correctly, where I'll be able to manage to get to the Futures Conference and hang out with everybody down on the waterfront here in Toronto and have a good time, because I missed it last year. I was sorry to miss it, but had a great time with the family out east.
Yeah, no, it was great. It was a great conference, and I'm excited to do it again. Last year was Vitalik and BitBoy were there, so some pretty big time people there giving some talks, and I got there was 4 of us last year that went. Now I think supposed to be 6 of us going this year to represent the Halvening Report. I was able to score a few good guests out of the event last year, so I'm excited to go and network again. Be good to see you in real life. We've done this a couple of times now, but it's always good to meet face to face. Do you go to a lot of conferences?
COVID, yada yada, but
Yeah,
certainly was a pretty frequent attender of it. Certainly anything in Toronto that was in the web3 crypto space for kind of 2017 through early 2020. I was at most of them, and definitely did the laps around a bunch of the big global one. Went to Consensus, went to all that kind of action. Last time haven't done any crypto specific stuff in 23 yet. So I way less. COVID broke me of the habit. It wasn't that I didn't want to or wouldn't and blah blah blah. It was just more of I don't go. Same reason I don't go to the office anymore. It's a whole lot easier just to do things on Zoom.
Fair enough. I feel like the Bitcoin conference in Miami is like the holy grail of conferences. Would you agree?
Certainly was on my radar to go down. I was down last year around the what was it? They did a bunch of stuff around the Miami Art Festival, whatever the fancy people call that, I forgot. Art Basel. Went down around Art Basel. There was a whole bunch of NFT and DeFi and all kind of crypto descended on top of Art Basel. That was a reasonably interesting experience in terms of seeing, again, a bit more of that culture mix coming in versus just the kind of pure technology, pure money mix, and how that played out in kind of the extremely wealthy humans live a different world. Like, you see what you see when you see the reality TV or stuff portrayed in movies and stuff like that, but like, I really strongly suspect some of the 18th Archduke of Canterbury, who was running around with his other multi-generational trust fund friends, don't have near the drama and just float through the world in a very interesting way, was my observation of Art Basel.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's and things are getting more extreme one way or the other. More people are living more people are living high, and hopefully Bitcoin will even things out a little bit down the road. Scott, is Bitcoin an invention or a discovery?
The technology is an invention. The philosophy is a discovery.
Can you elaborate on that?
So I get the most enjoyment, because at the end of the day, it's a financial technology. We've actually we've grafted finance onto it. It's not even necessarily financial technology, but it's the most obvious application of it. You alluded to when we talked about time preference of just if the thing that we use the whole value is permanent, we will operate differently. Our philosophy, our culture, all the things will flow out of that in a different way. There will only be 20, all the units of energy, units of time, units of value that have been created or captured in these 21 million things, we're going to behave differently. And we are behaving differently. Like it's 12 years or however, 12, 13 years down the path, and it's changed aspects of our culture. People are talking about the value of time, the value of money, the value of energy fundamentally in the mainstream fundamentally differently because this edge technology called Bitcoin is influencing that conversation. We think about inflation differently. We think about banking and money and fiat. People know what the word fiat is because of Bitcoin, and that is a fact. That's not speculative. It's like the reason fiat is a mainstream word that like someone who doesn't know anything about Bitcoin knows exists is because Bitcoiners made them know. Indirectly or directly is the question mark, but the fact that it's a mainstream word that gets discussed is because of Bitcoin. That's changing culture, and all around that you kind of see, I think Robert Breedlove does probably the best job of creating that conversation of like philosophy, religion, apply whatever word you want. It's how should our society work? How should we interact with each other is changing, and I think the direction that Bitcoin's pushing it is probably one of the most positive things that's going on in culture today, and it's anchored in Bitcoin fixes that.
Very good point. Yeah, and it's so interesting to see, but Bitcoin teach people so much about finances and how the old world works, and like you said, inflation, how that works, and also the word fiat and many other words as well. What advice would you give for people getting into the space right now, maybe going into, or for hodlers for going into the next 6 to 12 months?
I think there's all kinds of different personas. Like if my friend asked me what they should do, I'm like, get off of zero, buy some Bitcoin. Do not pass go. Don't think about anything else. Just buy some Bitcoin. Buy $100 worth, buy $1,000 bucks, buy $100,000 worth. Just depending on your financial risk and situation, all that kind of good stuff. Get off of zero, make it a number that you won't forget that you have. Is my kind of normie friend advice, has been the whole way through. If you're really serious about a dollar cost average your way in, is the basics. I'll technology friends, of which I have lots of tech nerd friends I've worked with in more traditional technology companies. When they kind of get curious, go set up a MetaMask, you get some Ethereum, go play with some of the applications. If you want to go play with some NFTs, play with some NFTs. Get in the space and play. Try some DeFi. I think DeFi is a materially important, invention and evolutionary space that kind of the last run has created. DeFi will change and adapt and adjust, but it ain't going anywhere. It's a core application. It solves a whole bunch of problems, and it's not accessible or achievable on Bitcoin. It's been done on Ethereum. It's been done on the alt chains, and that's whether I do it on Arbitrum or I do it on Binance Smart Chain or I do it on Ethereum is just a risk tolerance question, not a can I do it and should you do it question. So I point nerdier friends and people who are more interested in the space into that. Go play with some DeFi. Cultural friend, I'll go do an NFT, get involved in the NFT environment, play with it a bit. And if someone's like serious about, I want to go get professional into the space, it comes down to what that's a real. Are you an engineer? Are you a salesperson? Are you a finance person? What are you trying to do? Are you a lawyer? Trying to figure out where they got to find a value proposition, because that was materially hard in a bull market. Of trying to figure out who is actually worth working with, and create a real exchange of value of like, no, you're gonna pay me to contribute, right? And yeah, if you're gonna pay me in a liquid altcoin, I don't think so. If you want to, if you're the Ethereum foundation. Okay, yeah, it can pay me in ETH because I can trade. I can trade my ETH for loonies and pay my rent. But no, your pre-IDO coin it's not worth my time. Thank you very much. I say that with experience of having a whole bunch of dead coins and unpaid fees and illiquid positions that I'll never get out of. So don't do that.
Right, now you're just stuck holding some coin forever that may never be able to trade for Bitcoin or Ethereum or get real.
No,
real
it's
something that you could
it's
use,
like Bitcoin, ETH, stablecoin. Sure.
Yeah. Anything beyond that?
And like I'm bullish on lots of stuff, and there's lots of stuff that's got a great example. Like if this is my salary or my retainer or my contribution grant or whatever it is that I'm supposed to make a living off of, there's, you can wire me the money the old-fashioned way. I'd much prefer it if you sent me stable coins so we both save on fees and yada yada yada. I'll take Bitcoin and ETH because I can flip those, and if I'm gonna, what do I save my money in? I save my money in Bitcoin. So yeah, I'm happy if you pay me that. But
Scott, since we spoke, I read a book, The Block Size Wars. I'm not sure you heard of it, but I didn't really, because I came into the space in 2017, I didn't really fully understand what was going on between the small block camp and the big block camp and Bitcoin Cash, and as time goes on, realizing kind of such a showdown that was kind of going down that I didn't fully get at that time. What are your thoughts around that? And is Bitcoin Cash, is that dead in the water to you? Bitcoin.com, not being owned by people that push Bitcoin first, is that an issue? What are your thoughts around that?
I think that's dead and buried in terms of any conversation that anybody cares about. I don't think anybody cares about that crew anymore. So I think the argument at the time, so 2018, I was looking dead, right at it and kind of going, okay, what's going on here? What should I do? What's important? Why is it important? My kind of early experiences were very proof of work focused, very like, okay, how's it going to get mind focused? And I didn't like the collusion. I was kind of like, well, decentralization is the point of this, and if like the Bitcoin Council is the Bitcoin, okay, now I just got another corporate, essentially some weird corporate. I know how to deal with enterprises and corporations. I don't know how to deal with this like smorgasbord of pirates. And there's I mean that in the good way and the bad way. Because I consider myself one of those. I like to call myself a Buccaneer as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, so I'm a Buccaneer. But, what's the difference between, as my kids like to joke, what's the difference between a Buccaneer and a pirate? Like, I don't know. It just sounds cooler. So, like, at the time, it was a real debate. And I think the real problem with it more than anything was just the way that the big block faction went about it, colluding and conspiring, of which all things that happen in this world are the results of a conspiracy, by the way. Anytime there's two people in a room, a conspiracy is happening. So, and the output of that was it was real obvious real quick that Bitcoin was Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash was something different. Did it take a year? Did it take 2 years to go, okay, Bitcoin Cash is another shitcoin? Okay, we can tell you for certain in March of 2023, it ain't even, I'm sure it's got $1 billion market cap. No one cares. If you care, it's because you're affected at pumping and dumping it. That's cool, playing the crypto casino. But that's, put your money on 36. Who cares?
Scott, what are some of your goals for your future, both personally and professionally?
Well, accumulating more Bitcoin is the wealth objective, and I think a lot of our compatriots here agree with that. I'd like to have you know, get the 21 Bitcoin. There's a goal. You know, get the 21. I kind of have that as a near-term goal. Like, okay, get to 21. You know, but to do that, I got to build businesses. So, you know, really heavily focused on. I'm building a firm called FactorChain.ai, and so what we're doing is essentially we're using stable coins to make small business loans. So we're essentially working with distribution companies. So craft beer has kind of been my running example, and we've done a bunch of our pilot projects with craft breweries, and essentially we're giving them, as it sounds, factored financing. So essentially we're using the data of the brewery to get understanding what their sales forecast looks like, understanding if we provide you more capital up front, can you sell more beer? And if you sell more beer, does that generate more margin? If yes, take the money, make more beer, sell more of it, collect the margin. We'll take a little piece of the margin as yield. Put that back in stable coins, flow that using stable coins, to avoid the graph that the banks will put into that of like, here's your T+3 and $40 fee garbage that they put into that. We use stable coins so we can go, loans approved, money's out, it's in your wallet. Seconds later, you can deploy it, go do what you need. When you pay it back, same thing, you put it up, send it back. Much more capital efficient in terms of the flow of money by using stable coins. But you know, the core, it's very similar to like what Clearco has done in, you know, the e-commerce space or the SaaS space. Is like, if I give you another $1 to go spend that on an Instagram ad, will that generate another $3 of revenue? If the answer is yes, how many dollars can I lend you? And we're just applying that to a more stickier data set in terms of, you know, stuff like supply chain of like, if you buy more cans, can you can more beer? No, I can't can more beer because I need more barley. Okay, if I give you money to buy barley, does that solve the problem? So we're kind of working with the physical supply chains and using all that data around that. So we're doing a bunch of cool stuff with how we're gonna do data consortiums and build out kind of decentralized ecosystems on that data behind that. But first and foremost is just write loans, deliver them in stable coins so they're efficient, build that book of business, use the stable coins as a way to do higher velocity, more micro loans so we can, you know, do $5,000 loans, do them for a week, get them paid back, go with that. And, you know, no bank in the world will do that because it's too inefficient for them to underwrite it because they don't know how to spell API.
Are you working with just local companies, or do you go beyond that?
Primary customer, we've done a number in Ontario. We've done a couple in Alberta. We got one in BC that we're doing now. So we've done it all in Canada because our primary partner and behind that is StableCorp, which is part of 3IQ. We're using their Grapes Finance platform as part of that, which I think they just officially did all the launching of that in the last few days. So Grapes Finance, go check it out. You're welcome, StableCorp. You know, send me a T-shirt. And so there are Canadian stablecoin issuers. So we're using QCAD now. We've used USDC in the past transactions. We've done, you know, Circle USDC transactions, but now we're using QCAD. So we're going to do that Canadian denominated so we get out of the FX challenges. Although I think there's really interesting using USDC and QCAD to do a bunch of cool FX things is going to be really efficient. You know, having just been down to Orlando and spending with my Canadian credit card and then looking at the FX fees today after the fact, I'm like, yep, that's not efficient, and that's a lot of graph that my glorious bank, the color green, is just foisted on me, but the blue one and the other ones would have done the same thing. So there's lots of opportunity for that efficiency, so we're using QCAD through StableCorp, using their Grapes platform. The advantage of the Grapes platform is when we send money to the brewer, you know, stablecoin to the brewery just use Grapes. They can download, for all intent and purpose, those stable coins, turn them to fiat at their bank, spend it, you know, the old-fashioned way with their vendors, which you know, you're not taking a loan unless you're going to go spend it with your vendors or what have you. So they take it in loonies, spend it, go back to Grapes, send the loonies up, convert it back to QCAD, send it back to us. So we never touch anything but QCAD. But you know, StableCorp through Grapes has made it really easy for our customers to get the money in the format they need it to be, which unfortunately is fiat over time. We're going to help our customers build their supply chains that go, hey, if I pay in QCAD, here's the advantages. They start to get better cash cycles, better cash flows that come from better cash cycles. But I won't bore everybody with the nerds of that, because BIPs add up as you stack them.
So, is there like a lot of, I guess, orange pilling? I guess a lot of people with these companies that you're with, and like you kind of train them to have that same philosophy that you have to kind of just like acquire more Bitcoin? Or are they just kind of converting right back to fiat and then kind of going their ways and just kind of trying to attract the more business from it?
Certainly, our early state, our we're still early stage in the business. Has been developing over the last 2 years. So a lot of that's been early adopters, tech forward companies. So we're not getting a brewery that runs their business on a traditional pen-based ledger. It's made my money in technology. I started a brewery, and I really like we've digitized everything. It's those early adopters of technology that are there, and almost all of them have had. It wasn't their first rodeo with crypto. They all at least personally experimented with it, stuff like that. So here's how we use a wallet, here's how we're going to do this transaction, here's why stable coins are valuable, wasn't a huge education lift with our early customers. And part of that was just like the way we had to work through the processes to figure out what technology we actually needed to enable the business to work the way we want it to work was interesting. And now as the infrastructure's developed, a lot of that's been like Stable Corp and Balance, both great Canadian entities that are doing really good business, or like have built a really strong partnership that allows our business to work a lot more efficiently, where our customers don't really need to care about private keys and what network is this on. They just know I got QCAD, I can get QCAD turned into loonies, I can turn my loonies into QCAD, and I can send it, and that's Scott's address, and I can send it back to Factor Chain, and they're paid. So it's been really simple. It's gotten those customers for sure more interested in what is this, how does that work, how do they expand that. But like our goal is to make it no different than we don't care whether this Zoom call sits on an SQL database or a graph database. Doesn't freaking matter. The bits and bytes are flowing across, the video works. Money should work the same way.
Scott, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Put your own oxygen mask on first. It's fresh in my mind. It was a discussion with my mentor and one of my best friends and closest, family by choice, MK Mars, and we were talking today, and I was going through a challenge, and it was just like, put your oxygen mask on first. You can't there's stuff that you can't control. Only thing you control is your own mindset. If you can get settled with what's in my scope, what can I do, how do I reframe my point of view on whatever that is, and that person over there or people over there or situation over there is going to do what the hell it's going to do. There's no button I can untouch and turn the screw in somebody else's head. You got access to your own though.
Right. Do what's within your control, because ultimately that's all you really can do. You can't control what other people are doing, and figure yourself out first. I can kind of resonate with that. I resonate with that a lot, actually, and mind over matter. I'm trying to think of these things in similar quotation. I try to follow like a lot of on Instagram. I follow like those motivational or like advice. So like if I get into a habit of getting into that social media, I'll see something like that, and then it'll kind of like snap me back into it and kind of put like you said, put my oxygen mask on first.
It fit in. Hopefully that resonates with other Bitcoiners, but it's one of the reasons why Bitcoin resonates. Like it's self-sovereign. only person that is messing with your brain is you. The only person who's messing with your money is the bank. Is about 80,000 other actors sitting in different offices you control. No one's doing that to Bitcoin. It's in your wallets and your private keys. It's 12 words in your head.
Right.
Take control of all the stuff you could take control of. You should start with your mindset, but having control of your money is not a bad derivative too.
Scott, I'm going to open it up for you if you have any final comments. If not, just let us know where we can follow you and learn more.
Well, everybody can find me on Twitter at Howard Scott J, SCOTTJ. Similar, LinkedIn is where I nerd out. I appreciate how uncool that is, but it's just what I've decided where I like to hang out and talk smack. Hopefully, say occasionally interesting things, just because there's a longer form and more kind of focused business form. So I write a lot on LinkedIn, or at least I try to write a lot. / Scott J Howard. So some similar handles there. Pretty easy to find on those. Always totally wide open to having conversations about, you want to talk about alt chains, you want to talk about NFTs, you want to talk about Bitcoin. I'm game to talk about them. One of my kind of key focuses that I try to be a leader in is like enterprise adoption, big business adoption is the path to success. The network effects will be driven through those distribution channels. Bitcoin's a big deal because every banker on earth between 2017 and now got the memo. It took a lot of sales, a lot of sales effort to get JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon to have an opinion, good, bad, or indifferent. Warren Buffett has an opinion, good, bad, or different, because a lot of sales and marketing effort on behalf of Bitcoin went into they have an opinion. Their corporations in one way, shape, or form have a position. They have keys. And that took a lot of effort, and we got to keep doing that. We got to beat the drum on that. I happen to think that stable coins and the underlying technology that do that is a entry point to doing that until we've Bitcoination is happened to take over, of which as Balaji's been educating us over the last few weeks is happening. Could happen very suddenly.
Yeah. I don't know about $1 million, but I like the recent little bump, and I'm happy where it's at now. It feels good for it to bump like that with all the crisis happening right now.
You don't have to look hard underneath the hood of a balance sheet of any business to go. Most of them are insolvent.
Sorry, go ahead. So say that again.
You don't have to look at too many businesses too hard to realize they're almost all insolvent.
Yeah. No, it's true. Are we going to see a lot more bleeding to come, you think?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Tip of the iceberg.
Tip of the iceberg. Wow. Okay.
The world hasn't even realized how deep into the crisis we are already.
Really? Okay.
And have been so for quite some time. But when banks fail, you should get the memo. We're in deep trouble, and maybe it's deep enough that hyper-Bitcoinization actually happens in our lifetimes, or sooner rather than later, or what have you. But it's gonna be ugly. So get your keys under your control.
Definitely, yeah. Control your keys and get your popcorn ready. It's sort of like bittersweet when you own Bitcoin, but you watch at the same time you're watching the old system burn. Because if we're getting hyper Bitcoinization and we're seeing this adoption, we're getting wealthier by owning all Bitcoin, but you still, you feel bad for the people that haven't really made that educational step or financial step into the space yet to protect themselves, or they're not diversified, or simply don't have any assets, right? So, but definitely we live in interesting times. Scott, I'm super grateful for your time and grateful for you coming here and answering my questions, educating myself and my people about the space. Thanks for doing this, man.
Well, happy to do it. Do it anytime, and appreciate you reaching out and making the effort and spreading the good word. So let's keep delivering those orange pills, and there's a couple other pills off the side that you can experiment with, have some fun with. But Start with the most nutritious one first.
All right, that's a good note to leave us on. Thank you, Scott.
Cheers.
Recording stopped.
Oh man, that was good.